Hi and welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. Today's tutorial is on layer masks in Photoshop. To me, this is one of the most important things you can learn in Photoshop. It gives you so much control over your image, and it's just such a valuable tool. And in short, what it is it's the ability to hide adjustments, to show adjustments, or to create opacity on certain parts of your image just for those adjustments. I know it sounds very confusing and a lot of people get stumped by this, but once you learn it, it is infinitely valuable. I have a curves layer hidden, so I'm going to go ahead and show the layer, and you can see the difference it makes in the image. But if I just wanted these changes to be made in a certain part of the image, I can use my layer mask. And your layer mask is what this square here is to the right of the image. So to work on it, you want to make sure that you have that clicked. Now let's go down here to layer 1. Just as an example, this layer does not have a layer mask, but if I wanted to have a layer mask, I would simply make sure I clicked on that layer, come down to the bottom, and this little rectangle here with the hollow circle, click on that, and that creates a layer mask for that layer. But since we're working with curves, let's go ahead back up, make sure we have the layer mask selected. Now to work with the layer mask, you need your brush tool, and you need to make sure your default colors are set to black and white. And if you think it might be off-white or a different sort of black and a dark gray or something, these two little boxes here above it auto set it to default, so then there's no guessing, you know that you're on the right colors. And your brush is basically how you select where on the image you're working on. And the white is going to be the part of your adjustment that's showing, and the black is going to be the part of the adjustment that's hidden. And again, this is confusing, so I really hope I'm explaining this right. If you have it set to black, like this, that means anywhere that I brush on this image is going to hide that curve. So my curves adjustment here, I have my opacity set to 100, which means anything I brush on here is going to be absolute. It's going to completely take the effect away. So just for instance, we'll come here to the sun area and brush on, and then we'll go outward. And what that's doing is it's removing the effect of the curves layer. And if I wanted, I could do the entire sky. And therefore I would, once I'm done, I would just have the affected area of the curves be the ground down here. Now as you can see, as you go, sometimes it's easy to lose track of where you've painted. And sometimes it's obvious, like here I can see color differences. But sometimes it's not as obvious, and there's little bits here and there that might be missing. If you press the backslash button, it gives you a red overlay. And as you can see, anything that's red is what is not shown. It's what we have painted so far. You can see over here, there's a little spot. And it also shows you where your edge is. And you can come in and you can better paint in, or paint out technically, your adjustment. And then you press the same button, which is the backslash, to make that go away. So now what you're looking at is our curves adjustment with this whole sky and water area masked off. So if we were to come over here and hide the curves and show the curves, you can see the area that's being affected. Now the good thing about this is if you come back to your layer mask and you decide that you want to add the sky back, you simply change your color to white, and white means it's going to bring back the effects. And again, we have our opacity on 100, so it's going to be bringing it back completely. So just real quick, to paint over, it's bringing those effects back. So you can see the difference between this area here and this area here. And like I said earlier, it's non-destructive. So at any time I could switch back to black, paint back over it, and it has the opposite effect. Now that's a very quick description on how it works, and I usually like to show extremes like that at 100% opacity because you can see the changes made, and it's always good to do your backslash and just take another look. Now another thing about curves where it really gets in depth and allows you to have control over your image is that opacity of your brush. So if I wanted to say I'm going to bring this down to 16% and I'm going to switch over to my white as my color, which means I'm going to be bringing the effects of the curves layer back in, but because my opacity is only set on 16, I'm only going to be bringing them back 16% basically. And now also something to note while you're doing this is if you do an area and you go back over it, it will bring in another 16%. So that's going to bring you to 32%. So just for instance, let's say these clouds up here. As I brush on them, it brings in 16% of my curve layer. But if I wanted this little middle section here, see this looks dark enough to me, this middle section down here in between the top clouds and the sun, if I wanted this to have more of an effect, I would simply go over it again and that would give me another 16% of the curves. And the same goes for the reverse. If I did that and I decided it was too much, I would switch my color to black, and again, black means I'm removing the effects of that layer. My opacity is at 16%, which means I'm removing 16% of what's there. So I would go back over it and basically undo the 16% that I just did. It's important to stay clicked down while you're doing this. I'm using a tablet to do this, so I have to keep the pen pressed against the tablet. If you're using a mouse, you have to keep your mouse clicked down, because if you click, let go, and click again, that's going to be 16%. You let go and click again, that's another 16%. So it keeps the percentage for the entire time you're clicking your mouse, and then once you let go and click again, it's telling it that you want to go over it with another 16% or whatever percent you may have chosen. So now you can take a look at your little preview here and you can see where it's been painted. Again, you can do the backslash and you can see. Now I'm not sure how it looks on your monitor, but here I can tell that this is a much more pale red than over here. And the hue of that red shows how much I've gone over that layer. So if I went over it more, it would fade and fade and fade, and then when it was no longer there, that would mean it was showing all the way through. And this is good because you can go in and you can adjust certain areas. I may want to take the effect away there, or I might want to change to my white and bring only 16% of that in. So you can see it's bringing in some of that color from the curves very gently. And then if here I didn't want 16% to come through, I could drop this down lower. Let's say 9%. And I can go over that area with the 9%. And if that's still not enough, I can go over it again, which would effectively bring me to 18%. Now it's not important to follow your percents. It can be helpful, but I'm really just noting them, trying to give you a better idea of how it works. So now if we hide our curves layer and bring it back, you could see the areas of the sky that we've painted have been affected, and the parts that have been masked off with the black are not affected. And this is just curves. This is just one way of doing it. But you can do this with any adjustment you have. Real quick, let's go to hue and saturation. We're going to bump up the saturation. Sometimes you might want to look at just one part of your image that you're looking to adjust. So I'll bump the saturation up, and you can see that the sky gets ugly. But it might look okay down here in the foreground. And I'm trying to be a little bit extreme here just so you can see how this works. So to look, that's before the adjustment, after the adjustment. So what I'm looking for when I want to customize my image is I might be looking at one area. And that area for me is going to be down here in the foreground. So by hiding it and looking, I'm seeing what looks good here, because I know that I can mask off the sky, that the sky isn't important. And if we were working globally, which would affect the entire image, I would have to find that compromise. But since I can layer mask, I don't need to find a compromise. I can find what works for me down here, go to the layer mask here, and it works the same way as before. Now I know that I really don't want to bring the sky in at all right now, so I go to 100% on my opacity. That means everything I do is going to be all the way one way or all the way another way. And I want to hide the sky, so I'm going to go to the color black, because that'll get rid of the effects. And I'm just going to brush over the sky. And it's good to have somewhat of a soft brush when you do this, because it helps give a better flow to your image. Sometimes without that it has a very hard edge to it. And again, if you press backslash, you can take a look at the area and you can fine tune according to that. And once again, a reminder, the red area is just showing me the affected area. The actual color red has nothing to do with the image at all. It's just a quick way to see where you're working. And as you can see, I'm working with a rather soft brush, so it feathers outward. And you can see on the edges between the area I'm painting, and let's zoom in here, down here on the rocks, you can see that it does overlap. And so if that happens and I want to bring that out, I switch my colors and I simply paint it back. And I would just go along the edge and find a good medium, I guess you could say, to where it's not completely on the edge and affecting it. So we'll bring it back out to full image. It's kind of a sloppy job, but it was just real quick to give you guys an idea. Oh, we switch back. Also, just a tip, a quick way to switch between black and white is by pressing the X key. So if I press X, I'm on white, X again, I'm on black, so I can keep painting and I can switch back and forth as I need to. So now you can see if we turn off our hue and saturation and then turn it on, now since I have used my layer mask and I masked off the sky, the only part that's affected by that adjustment is going to be my foreground. And again, I know this is a somewhat confusing topic. There are many videos, forum posts, questions, everything else, all about layer masking on its own. But once you get it down and you understand all the possibilities, it is so helpful. And again, down here, anything you do can be masked off. So it allows you to work with certain parts of your image. And then just to give you another idea of possibility, if you were wanting to work with hue and saturation like I was, and we just worked with the ground there, I'm going to go ahead and make a second layer of hue and saturation. And let's just say we're going to desaturate a little bit. As you can see, moving it affects the whole image. But right now I'm just looking at the sky. So this is before, this is after. So it's a little bit of a change. I'm going to desaturate a little bit more. Make it a little bit more drastic. So now that I have that done, I can go in here and I can mask off the foreground. I have my color set to black, so it'll hide it. My opacity is at 100, so it'll be complete. I have my layer mask selected, and I'm just going to come in here and brush. I'll do the backslash so I can see the affected area. And like I said, if you go over like this, I switch my brush by pressing X to the color white, and now I can go around the edges and just kind of fine tune, bring back some of that overlapping. Now usually with my own edits I would go into a lot more depth, be a lot more careful with edges and stuff like that, but for the purpose of this, that's good enough. So now if I hide that hue and saturation layer, I can see that it affects only the sky because this part down here is masked off. So by doing this, it allows you to work on just certain parts of your image and get them exactly how you want, whether you're creating a layer mask using curves, hue and saturation, contrast, exposure, anything you can imagine. Even a second image you can mask off, and that's how a lot of people, they'll have multiple photos of themselves in an image. They'll set their camera on a tripod, take a photo of them maybe sitting on a chair, take another photo of them standing by the table, and they'll simply mask off part of the image to let the other image through. So you can edit this entire image one way, edit it another way, and then mask in different parts that work for you. So I hope this kind of gave you the basics on it. Sorry for having a long video, but I just wanted to get the point across. I hope this is helpful. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please post them in the comments. I'm always happy to get new video ideas, so feel free to suggest those as well. All the links for connecting with me on Facebook, Blogspot, Flickr, all that happy stuff is all down in the description as well, so feel free to connect with me there. And until next time.